الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على عبد الله ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So we'd like to welcome the brothers and sisters back to our daily juz summarized. I don't know whether we should call it tafsir or more likely we should call it summarized commentary on the English translation of the Qur'an. I think that's more accurate to say. And in Ramadan, we finished up to Surah Adh-Dhariyat, and the goal is to continue on from there. I don't know exactly how many sessions it will take. I don't think we'll be able to maintain the same amount of intensity that we did during Ramadan. But at the same time, I don't want it to take a very long time. I don't want it to be something that for months and months it's ongoing. So, let's see where we get today, inshaAllah ta'ala, and let's see how far we get. The surahs are a little easier in some ways and harder in some ways. Easier because we all know them, we're very familiar with them, but harder because of the fact that there's a lot of meanings found in very short ayat. So there's a lot of commentary which is needed. So we can begin with the start of Surah Adh-Dhariyat. وهي مكية.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم اغفر لنا ولشيخنا وللمستمعين ولجميع المسلمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قال الله تعالى: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذاريات ذروا. By the winds scattering dust, dispersing it.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by whatever He wants. As for us, we are only allowed to swear by Allah. And Allah only swears by something that is very, very important. And Allah doesn't swear by something that is insignificant. So the winds which scatter, they scatter dust. And they scatter the seeds which bring about the growth of the plants. That's part of the meaning. It's not just dust that they scatter. They scatter al-hubub, the seeds that are scattered on the wind and the plants grow from them.
فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا. And the clouds carrying a load of water.
And He loaded with rain, heavy with water.
فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا. And the ships sailing with ease. فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ أَمْرًا. And the angels apportioning each matter.
And by Allah's command, the angels distribute what Allah commands them to distribute. For example, to distribute provision, distribute rain, and other things which the angels are commanded to distribute by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
إِنَّمَا تُوعَدُونَ لَصَادِقٌ. Indeed, what you are promised is true.
And this is jawab al-qasam. So every time you have an oath, you have to have the purpose of the oath, or at least we're going to discuss whether that's the case or not. And here, the purpose of the oath is that indeed what you are promised is true. Any resurrection, the hereafter, the paradise and hellfire.
وَإِنَّ الدِّينَ لَوَاقِعٌ. And indeed the recompense is to occur.
Ad-Din here is the recompense. Everyone getting back what they have put forward.
وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُكِ. By the heaven containing pathways.
Al-Hubuk here is like Hubuk al-Rimal. I don't know what you call them. I think you call them sand tracks, if I'm not mistaken. So Hubuk al-Rimal, if you look at the picture of the sand dunes, and you can do this, just type it into your web browser, sand dunes. You will see the sand dunes, they have like tracks that are caused by the wind, like what's the word? Not like valleys, but like parts that go up and down, tracks that are formed by the wind. These are called Hubuk al-Rimal, the tracks, sand tracks. And Here, the scholars differed about what is meant by as-sama dhat al-hubuk, meaning the heavens that have these tracks in them. Some of them said the orbits, some of them said the layers of the heavens, tibaqan, one on top of the other. And some of them said the orbits, each any object in the heaven orbiting as Allah commands it to do. And in all of this indicates the any supremacy and the greatness of the Creator.
إنكم لفي قول مختلف. Indeed, you are in differing speech.
Any differing about the Qur'an and about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
يؤفك عنه من أفك. Deluded away from it is he who is deluded.
So there's a number of different translations here. يؤفك عنه من أفك. The translation is fine. Deluded away from it, the one who is deluded. Meaning perhaps that those who Allah has decreed to be deluded are turned away from it, or the deluded are turned away by it, or the one who is turned away from it is the one who is deluded. But the most obvious, or the one that seems to be the most apparent, is the decree of Allah. يُؤْفَكُ عَنْهُ مَنْ أُفِكَ مَنْ أُفِكَ بِقَدْرِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Whoever was decreed for them to be deluded will be certainly deluded from the truth with regard to the Qur'an and with regard to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
قتل الخراصون. Destroyed are the misinformers.
The misinformers or the liars.
الذين هم في غمرة ساهون. Who are within a flood of confusion and heedless. يسألون أيان يوم الدين. They ask, when is the day of recompense?
Any mockingly, not seriously.
يوم هم على النار يفتنون. It is the day they will be tormented over the fire. ذوقوا فتنتكم هذا الذي كنتم به تستعجلون. And will be told, taste your torment. This is that for which you were impatient.
And the thing that when we say impatient, we said they wanted to bring the punishment upon themselves. So they would say, where is this punishment? وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدِ مَتَى هَذَا الْفَتْحُ. When will it come? When is this punishment going to come? Bring it upon us now. أَمْطِرْ عَلَيْنَا حِجَارَةً مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Send down stones upon us from the heavens. And they asked for the punishment to be brought forward quickly.
إن المتقين في جنات وعيون. Indeed, the righteous will be among gardens and springs.
The people of taqwa, they will be among gardens and springs.
آخذين ما آتاهم ربهم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك محسنين. Accepting what their Lord has given them. Indeed, they were before that doers of good.
They were muhsinin, people of ihsan. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. They were people of ihsan. So these terms, I don't mind them being translated into doers of good, but I do feel that sometimes the term is lost. In the word here specifically, they were people of ihsan, because that's a technical term. It's like taqwa. It's a technical term. It's not just a doer of good. A doer of good, yes, you can say is a muhsin. Yani man fa'ala khayran, whoever did something good. But that's not the meaning here. The meaning here is the technical meaning of ihsan. They were people of ihsan. And what does ihsan require? Ihsan, it comes into two meanings, right? Or at least two meanings. From the meanings of ihsan is the meaning found in the hadith of Jibreel. أن تعبد الله كأنك ترى فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. That you worship Allah as though you can see Him, and even though you cannot see Him, you know that He can see you. And from the meanings of ihsan is the person who does the voluntary deeds. وَسَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ bi'idhnillah, the one who is racing to do good deeds ahead of what is fard upon them. So this, the reason they are in jannatin wa uyun is because they had that fear of Allah Azza wa Jalla, that taqwa, even when they could not see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they knew that Allah could see them, and also because of the voluntary deeds that they did and they excelled in. But these are all found within the meaning of the word muhsin. So it's useful to note these terminologies like taqwa and ihsan when they come, and not to just give them a linguistic translation where someone might lose the meaning of it.
كانوا قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون. They used to sleep but little of the night.
And what's the meaning here? It has to be from the tatawwu', yani from the voluntary deeds that they did, is tahajjud, the night prayer. And they used to only sleep a little in the night because they were busy with prayer and dua.
وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. And in the hours before dawn, they would ask forgiveness.
Because that's the time of An-Nuzul, Al-Ilahi. It's the time of divine descent. The divine descent, where Allah Azza wa Jal descends to the lowest heaven in a way that befits His majesty, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from the things that Allah says is, هَلْ مِن مُسْتَغْفِرٍ فَأَغْفِرَ لَهُ. Is there anyone seeking forgiveness so that I can forgive him?
Your microphone's on, right?
You having a problem with which one? The YouTube one or the
YouTube one? Just check if it's on. Just make sure it's on.
It is, but if you want to go and check the, or let me check the level here. Let's have a look. Okay, testing 1 2 1 2. Bismillah. Yeah, it seems it's on, but it seems to me to be very low.
Mine they're saying is loud.
Sorry?
They're saying mine is loud, yours is low.
Yeah, that's what it seems. On mine seems to be a bit low.
Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah.
Yeah, mine seems to be a bit low. What you can do is you can turn it from the device itself. Let's see. Bismillah. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. A little bit more. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Still could use a tiny bit more, Yusuf. Might just have fallen down a bit. Bismillah walhamdulillah. That looks good to me.
This is better. وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم. And from their property and from their
and from their properties.
Is their properties right for this situation? Their wealth.
And from their wealth is easier to understand. When they say properties, I don't have a problem with the word properties. What they say by property is they mean as in all the things a person owns, like their money or their food that they have or whatever it is. But when you say properties, what comes to people's mind is houses. Yani that's when people talk about the properties. People don't use it like that in terms of amwal. So I think wealth makes more sense.
And from their wealth was given the right of the needy petitioner and the deprived.
Yani the sa'il is the one who asks for wealth, and the mahroom is the one who is deprived and who doesn't ask other people. So you have the one who is a sa'il, the beggar, and the one who doesn't ask anybody.
وفي الأرض آيات للموقنين. And on the earth are signs for the certain in faith. وفي أنفسكم أفلا تبصرون. And in yourselves, then will you not see?
Now, the signs that are in the earth and the signs that are within yourself. And we've spoken about them before.
وفي السماء رزقكم وما توعدون. And in the heaven is your provision and whatever you are promised.
In the heaven is your provision. Either it refers to the rain, or either it refers to the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal in decreeing the rizq between the servants.
فورب السماء والأرض إنه لحق مثل ما أنكم تنطقون.
Afwan Abdurrahman, sorry, I was trying to stop you.
Oh.
وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ, we didn't speak about it. What are you promised? In terms of what you have been promised, in terms of your recompense. Also, you can include in this the recompense in the dunya if the meaning is the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ, the qadr of your rizq, وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ, and that which you have been promised will happen from the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. Read it again, the ayah, فَوَرَبِّ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ.
فورب السماء والأرض إنه لحق مثل ما أنكم تنطقون. Then by the Lord of the heaven and earth, indeed it is truth just as sure as it is that you are speaking.
And as true as the fact you can speak.
هل أتاك حديث ضيف إبراهيم المكرمين? Has there reached you the story of the honored guests of Ibrahim?
The story of the guests of Ibrahim has already passed. Which surah? Has it passed once or twice?
Twice, right?
It's come already in Surah Al-Hijr. Surah Al-Hijr it came. وَنَبِّئْهُمْ عَنْ ضَيْفِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Where else did it come? It came, no doubt, by meaning. I'm talking about the story. It came by meaning, the story of Lut and what happened, but specifically mentioning the angels who came to Ibrahim. It came in Surah Hud. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ بِالْبُشْرَى قَالُوا سَلَامًا قَالَ سَلَامٌ فَمَا لَبِثَ أَنْ جَاءَ بِعِجْلٍ حَنِيذٍ. It came in Surah Hud also.
إذ دخلوا عليه فقالوا سلاما قال سلام قوم منكرون. When they entered upon him and said, "We greet you with peace," he answered, "And upon you peace." Oh no, actually.
It would be better to say salam.
Yeah, we greet you with salam. He answered, "And upon you salam. You are people unknown." فراغ إلى أهله فجاء بعجل سمين. Then he went to his family and came with a fat roasted calf.
And from the benefits of this, which we didn't mention in Surah Hud, is that Ibrahim didn't ask his guests, "Shall I roast a calf for you?" Because the guests didn't eat. We know they are angels. They didn't eat. So that shows us Ibrahim didn't ask his guests. And from this is an etiquette that if you have a guest come to your home, that it's not any. Sometimes you might put them in a position where if you say to them, "Shall I make food for you?" What would they say? "No, don't make it for us. We're fine. We're comfortable." Again, he didn't ask them. This is from the karam of Ibrahim.
فقربه إليهم قال ألا تأكلون. And placed it near them, he said, "Will you not eat?" فأوجس منهم خيفة قالوا لا تخف وبشروه بغلام عليم. And he felt from their apprehension. They said, "Fear not," and gave him good tidings of a learned boy. فأقبلت امرأته في صرة فصكت وجهها وقالت عجوز عقيم. And his wife approached with a cry of alarm and struck her face and said, "I am a barren old woman."
And that she will not be able to have a child. Like in here, I wanted to ask a question. Who is the Ghulam here. Who is the boy? Who is the boy here? Ishaq. Because this is happening in the place of the people of Lut. And the place of the people of Lut was Ash-Sham. So this is Ibrahim's bushra of a child with Sarah and with Ishaq. And what else is he called? Elsewhere in the Qur'an, he's called here Ghulamin Alim. What else is he called in the other ayah? Surah Hud. Halim. So he's given those two attributes. He's knowledgeable and forbearing.
قالوا كذلك قال ربك إنه هو الحكيم العليم. They said, thus has said your Lord, indeed he is the wise, the knowing. قال فما خطبكم أيها المرسلون. Ibrahim said, then what is your business here, O messengers? قالوا إنا أرسلنا إلى قوم مجرمين. They said, indeed we have been sent to a people of criminals.
And they are the people of Lut.
لنرسل عليهم حجارة من طين. To send down upon them stones of clay. مسومة عند ربك للمسرفين. Marked in the presence of your Lord for the transgressors. فأخرجنا ما كان فيها من المؤمنين. So we brought out whoever was in them of the believers. فما وجدنا فيها غير بيت من المسلمين. And we found not within them other than a single house of Muslims.
In the family of Lut, and nobody was Muslim in those cities except for the family of Lut, with the exception of his wife.
وتركنا فيها آية للذين يخافون العذاب الأليم. And we left therein a sign for those who fear the painful punishment.
It said that the sign is the Dead Sea. That's the view that Ibn Kathir mentions. The Dead Sea is the sign, the ruins of what happened to the people of Lut.
وفي موسى إذ أرسلناه إلى فرعون بسلطان مبين. And in Musa was a sign when we sent him to Fir'aun with a clear authority.
Clear proofs.
فتولى بركنه وقال ساحر أو مجنون. But he turned away with his supporters and said, a magician or a madman.
He turned away with his supporters, or he turned away because of his power that he had over the people.
فأخذناه وجنوده فنبذناهم في اليم وهو مليم. So we took him and his soldiers and cast them into the sea, and he was blameworthy. وفي عاد إذ أرسلنا عليهم الريح العقيم. And in Ad was a sign when we sent against them the barren wind. ما تذر من شيء أتت عليه إلا جعلته كالرميم. It left nothing of what it came upon, but that it made it like disintegrated ruins.
Like disintegrated.
Oh, disintegrated ruins. وفي ثمود إذ قيل لهم تمتعوا حتى حين. And in Thamud, when it was said to them, enjoy yourselves for a time.
How long were they given? تمتعوا في دياركم 3 أيام.
فعتوا عن أمر ربهم فأخذتهم الصاعقة وهم ينظرون. But they were insolent toward the command of their Lord, so the thunderbolt seized them while they were looking on. فما استطاعوا من قيام وما كانوا منتصرين. And they weren't able to arise, nor could they defend themselves. وقوم نوح من قبل إنهم كانوا قوما وقوم نوح من قبل إنهم كانوا قوما فاسقين. And we destroyed the people of Noah before. Indeed, they were a people defiantly disobedient. والسماء بنيناها بأيد وإنا لموسعون. And the heaven we constructed with strength, and indeed we are its expander.
Now, here we have to stop for a second. There's an important point as it relates to the asma wa sifat here. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, السماء بنيناها بأيد. Aydin is the plural of yad. Okay, so yad means hand. So aydin means hands. But here, why is it translated correctly as strength? Why is it not translated as a sifa of Allah? Because Allah has hands, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why is it not translated as an attribute of Allah? It's correct. The way it's translated is correct. It means strength here. Why does it not mean? Now, some people can look at this and say, you see, this is a proof that even you people, you change the meaning from what the ayah says, because the ayah says hands, but you don't say hands here. Why not? It's very important to note that the grammar here is different to the other examples of the word hand that come in the Qur'an. So here, aydin is not mentioned belonging to anyone. Bi-aydin, and it doesn't say bi-aydina, our hands. Now, and the context of the use in the Arabic language is that the word aydin like this, without connecting it to a particular person or a particular thing, then this here, it doesn't mean the hand of Allah Azza wa Jal here. It means strength, and the grammar is different, the context is different. So don't let that confuse you into thinking that it's acceptable to go to the sifat of Allah Azza wa Jal that are mentioned in the Qur'an and to change the meaning. That's not what is being done here. Rather, the Arabic language here supports the translation as being strength, bi aydin, and not bi aydina, with our hands.
وَالْأَرْضَ فَرَشْنَاهَا فَنِعْمَ الْمَاهِدُونَ. And the earth we have spread out, and excellent is the preparer.
And from the evidences of what I said also, is that if you were to go and look at the tafsir of the early generations prior to the emergence of philosophy and things like that in the Muslim Ummah, you would see that in all of the places of the Qur'an, the word yad is translated as Allah's hand, is explained as Allah's hand, except here. Bi aydin, they said, yani bi quwwa, with strength. So if you go back to the tafsir that were not affected by philosophy, like the Tafsir of Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, rahimahullah ta'ala, and the others who were not affected by philosophy and were not affected by deviancy, you'll see that all of the other times the hand is mentioned, they all took it to be Allah's hand. But here, the context, the grammar, the way the sentence is structured is different. So it doesn't excuse someone to carry out that methodology in every place that they change their names and attributes from what they are mentioned. But here, any bi-aydin means with strength.
وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. And of all things we created two mates, perhaps you will remember.
Any two pairs. And counterparts, like hot and cold, male and female, From everything, Allah Azza wa Jal created two counterparts. Two pairs.
فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنِّي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. So flee to Allah, indeed I am to you from him a clear warner.
Now there's something unique in reality about the statement فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. Flee to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who are you fleeing from? Who are you running away from? You're running away from Allah. Because something unique about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that you run away from Allah to Allah. And that meaning is found in Allahumma inna na'udhu biridaka min sakhatik wa bi'afwika min uqubatik wa bika minka la nuhsi thana'an alayk anta kama athnayta ala nafsik. That, O Allah, we seek refuge with your pleasure from your anger and your pardon from your punishment, and we seek refuge from you with you. فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. And you run away from Allah's anger, from Allah's punishment, from Allah's curse, to Allah's pleasure. For you can't escape Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except by seeking refuge with Him. And you escape Allah's punishment by running to Allah. And you're running from Allah's punishment and Allah's anger and Allah's curse. Also from the meanings of فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ is to run away from sin and disobedience. And the word used is very powerful here. You're not told to turn towards Allah. Firru, run, and you flee as fast as you can, as though someone is running away from firaraka min al-asad, as though you're running away from a lion. So I'll read to you what As-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala he said in the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ. He said, when Allah Azza wa Jal called the servants to consider His ayat that should make you fear Him and make you turn to Him, He commanded what is intended from that. What's intended from all these ayat? It's a very important question. Many times, even I was discussing with one of the brothers, was mentioning about how many times the ayat of Allah are mentioned. The ayat of Allah, al-kawniyya, in the universe, in وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. But actually, if you were to look at what is the maqsood from it, what does Allah want you to do? When you see the heavens and the earth, and you see the heavens with its different orbits and pathways and the complexity of the universe, and you see the complexity of the human body, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, what does Allah want from you? The maqsood of it is al-firaru ila Allah, that you flee to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you flee from what Allah Azza wa Jal hates, from that which is done openly and that which is done hiddenly, to that which Allah loves openly and hiddenly. You run away from ignorance to knowledge. You run away from kufr to iman. You run away from disobedience to obedience. You run away from being heedless to the remembrance of Allah. And whoever has completed this matter, they have completed the entire religion. And what they are scared of, they will be safe from it. And they will get what they actually want and what they hope to achieve. And Allah Azza wa Jal called turning back to Him firar, running away. Because when you, He said, لِأَنَّ فِي الرُّجُوعِ لِغَيْرِهِ أَنْوَاعُ الْمَخَاوِفِ وَالْمَكَارِهِ. When you run away to other than Allah and you seek help from other than Allah, the reality is you will be scared. You will suffer fear, and you will suffer what you hate. And when you return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will achieve Allah's love and safety and happiness, and you will achieve eternal success. he said, فَيَفِرُّ الْعَبْدُ مِنْ قَضَائِهِ وَقَدَرِهِ إِلَى قَضَائِهِ وَقَدَرِهِ. And that's the meaning I wanted. You run away from Allah's qadr. What do you run away from? You run away from Allah's qadr to Allah's qadr. Like Umar radiallahu anh said, when he was asked about the issue of the plague entering the city where there was a plague. And it was said to him, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, are you running away from the qadr of Allah? And we're running from the qadr of Allah to the qadr of Allah. Yeah? Yani you are running away from everything that you're scared of about Allah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how much you are scared of Allah will determine how much you run towards Him. And how much you flee towards Him. Your firar, your running to Allah will depend on how much you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
ولا تجعلوا مع الله إلها آخر إني لكم منه نذير مبين. And do not make us equal with Allah another deity. Indeed, I am to you from Him a clear warner.
I don't like this word as equal because I still feel like it gives the impression that if you don't make them equal, it's acceptable. And you don't make another deity with Allah. That's what the ayah says. You don't make anything that is worship besides Allah.
كذلك ما أتى الذين من قبلهم من رسول إلا قالوا ساحر أو مجنون. Similarly, there came not to those before them any messenger except that they said a magician or a madman. أتواصوا به بل هم قوم طاغون. Did they suggest it to them? Rather, they themselves are transgressing people.
And did they, meaning did the earlier people leave as a legacy these words for the people of Makkah to say the same thing? And it's as though Allah is saying, what kind of legacy are you people following? That the messengers before, it was said to them that they are mad. And now you people have taken the words of Ad and the words of Thamud and the words of the people of Nuh and the words of the people of Lut, and you are the people continuing their legacy. You've taken it from them and you're saying the same words again.
فتول عنهم فما أنت بملوم. So leave them, O Muhammad, for you are not to be blamed.
Because you've delivered the message.
وذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين. And remind, for indeed the reminder benefits the believers.
And this ayah is very important because it tells us that being reminded, it benefits the believers. And even if it's something that you knew before, being reminded, and the nature of the believer is needing to be reminded again and again. All of us, regardless of how much or how little knowledge a person has, we need regular reminders. We need to be reminded again and again. And the believer is the one who benefits when they are reminded. And the disbeliever is the one who does not benefit how many times they are reminded.
وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. And if I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me.
And this is the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation of the jinn and the men is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And that's the reason that Allah Azza wa Jal created them for.
ما أريد منهم من رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون. I do not want from them any provision, nor do I want them to feed me.
Yani to feed me or to feed my creation. Yani I don't want them to provide for people, and I don't want them to, I don't require them to provide the food that my creation lives by.
إن الله هو الرزاق ذو القوة المتين. Indeed, it is Allah who is the continual provider, the firm possessor of strength.
Now, the continual provider, it's a very good translation of Ar-Razzaq, the one who continually provides. And Allah is the possessor of strength, the Almighty. I think there's, in Sahih International, it's missing the meaning of the word Mateen, because Dhul Quwwa is one thing and Mateen is another. So Dhul Quwwa, possessor of strength, Al-Mateen, the ever mighty or the most strong. So it would be better if they said, for example, the firm possessor of strength, the ever mighty or the most strong.
فإن للذين ظلموا ذنوبا مثل ذنوب أصحابهم فلا يستعجلون. And indeed, for those who have wronged, there's a portion of punishment like the portion of their companions. So let them not impatiently urge me. فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ يَوْمِهِمُ الَّذِي يُوعَدُونَ. And woe to those who have disbelieved from their day which they are promised.
We continue with Surah At-Tur, and Surah is Makkiyah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والطور. By the mount.
And the mount of At-Tur, where Musa, where Allah Azza wa Jal spoke to Musa.
وكتاب مسطور. And by a book inscribed.
And Lawh al-Mahfuz.
في رق منشور. In parchment spread open.
That's also a view that the kitab, which is mastur, is the Qur'an. And the raq manshur, it's spread open for all to read. So there's a view of it being the Lawh al-Mahfuz, and there's a view of it being the Qur'an.
والبيت المعمور. And by the frequented house.
If it refers to the Lawh al-Mahfuz, then how do we say fi raqqin manshur? It's on a parchment which is open. Meaning a parchment which is not hidden for people. It's not hidden that people know of it, and Allah has told you about it. It doesn't mean that everybody can read it. Wal Bayt al-Ma'mur. The Bayt al-Ma'mur is the house which the angels visit in the seventh heaven, and it is comparable, or it is in a similar position to the Kaaba on this earth. Every single day, 70,000 angels make tawaf around it, and none of them ever go back and make tawaf again.
والسقف المرفوع. And by the ceiling raised high.
And the ceiling, the heaven, the canopy of the heaven.
والبحر المسجور. And by the sea set on fire.
There are two views about masjur here. One is that it means that it's filled up and it never runs dry. And the other one is that it's on fire. And if it's on fire, then it refers to what? يوم القيامة. وإذا البحار فجرت. When the seas will be on fire.
إن عذاب ربك لواقع. Indeed, the punishment of your Lord will occur.
And that is Jawab al-Qasam. Allah swore by those things. He swore by At-Tur. He swore by the Lawh al-Mahfuz, or by the Qur'an. He swore by the Bayt al-Ma'mur, which the angels visit. He swore by the canopy of the heavens. He swore by the sea that is a light on the day of resurrection. All of it for the purpose of confirming to us that the punishment of your Lord will certainly take place.
ما له من دافع. Of it there is no preventer. يوم تمور السماء مورا. On the day the heaven will sway with circular motion.
Or it will shake violently, or shake with a dreadful shaking.
وَتَسِيرُ الْجِبَالُ سَيْرًا, and the mountains will pass on departing.
As though they were dust, moving like clouds.
فَوَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ, then woe that day to the deniers.
I was going to say, وَهِيَ تَمُرُّ مَرَّ السَّحَابِ, they will move on like the clouds. فَوَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Wail is either a valley in Jahannam, or it means destruction. Destruction on that day, or a valley in Jahannam on that day, will be for al-mukaththibin, the people who declared the Prophet ﷺ to be a liar, or they declared the Qur'an to be a lie. So they denied.
الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي خَوْضٍ يَلْعَبُونَ, who are in empty discourse amusing themselves. يَوْمَ يُدَعُّونَ إِلَى نَارِ جَهَنَّمَ دَعًّا, the day they are thrust toward the fire of hell with a violent thrust, its angels will say.
Its angels will say, that's added in order to understand the next ayah. I think it would be better if they had put it on the next ayah, because it's not mentioned here in this ayah. It would be better if they said in the next ayah, هَذِهِ النَّارِ, that they said the angels will say this is the fire.
هذه النار التي كنتم بها تكذبون, this is the fire which you used to deny.
And this is what the angels will say.
أفسحر هذا أم أنتم لا تبصرون, then is this magic or do you not see? اصلوها فاصبروا أو لا تصبروا سواء عليكم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. Enter to burn therein, then be patient or impatient. It is all the same for you. You are only being recompensed for what you used to do.
And that's we've already spoken about that in which surah? Surah Ibrahim I was thinking of. سواء علينا أجزعنا أم صبرنا ما لنا من محيص. Doesn't matter whether we are patient or impatient, there's no escape.
إن المتقين في جنات ونعيم, indeed the righteous will be in gardens and pleasure. فاكهين بما آتاهم ربهم ووقاهم ربهم عذاب الجحيم, enjoying what their Lord has given them and their Lord protected them from the punishment of hellfire. كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما كنتم تعملون, they'll be told, eat and drink in satisfaction for what you used to do. متكئين على سرر مصفوفة وزوجناهم بحور عين, they will be reclining on thrones lined up, and we will marry them to fair women with large beautiful eyes. والذين آمنوا واتبعتهم ذريتهم بإيمان ألحقنا بهم ذريتهم وما ألتناهم من عملهم من شيء كل امرئ بما كسب رهين. And those who believed and whose descendants followed them in faith, we will join with them their descendants, and we will not deprive them of anything of their deeds. Every person for what he earned is retained.
There's a few things we need to explain with regard to this ayah. Those who believed and their offspring followed them in faith, we will join their descendants with them. I want to read for you what did As-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, what did he say about the ayah? He said, this is from the completion of the blessings of the people of Jannah, that Allah Azza wa Jal allows the offspring who followed them in Iman to join them in Jannah. Meaning what? What does it mean by the offspring? Why are the offspring different from other people? See, there are two groups of people. There are people who enter into Islam out of their own personal choice. And if, for example, a person was not a Muslim and they accepted the religion of Islam, and then there is a situation where a person who accepted Islam raises Muslim children. Those Muslim children never went through that stage of deciding whether they wanted to be Muslim or not, or making a decision. Shall we be Muslim or shall we not be Muslim? They were Muslim because their parents, someone from among their ancestors accepted Islam and the religion was passed on. I'm not saying they don't make a choice. They are still, they choose to practice the religion. But those people are not the same as the one who chose to accept Islam. That person never had Islam. And they said, out of the religions here, I want to be a Muslim. And the one who was brought up in a Muslim household. These are the ones who Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانٍ. And they brought up Muslim children who followed them in Iman. Allah Azza wa Jal will bring their children together with them in Jannah. And he said, وَمِن بَابِ أَوْلَى إِذَا تَبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ بِإِيمَانِهِمْ الصَّادِرْ مِنْهُمْ أَنفُسُهُمْ. He said, even more so, if those children themselves chose to accept Islam and themselves were committed to Islam and chose themselves to practice it and to accept it, so they're even more deserving of being joined together with their fathers and their ancestors who chose Islam for themselves. And none of the rewards will be lost. Not the rewards of the children or the rewards of the fathers. كُلُّ امْرِئٍ بِمَا كَسَبَ رَهِينٌ. He is مُرْتَهِنٌ بِعَمَلِهِ. This is a difficult one to find how to say it in English. I don't think any of them do a great job. The clear Qur'an says every person will reap only what they sowed, which is the correct meaning, but it doesn't really translate what is said here. I prefer, if you take the footnote of Sahih International, every person is held hostage for what he did, or every person is held responsible for what he did. That is actually the meaning here. Ar-Rahman is like a mortgage, and it's something which is held in security. So something which is Ar-Rahman is a mortgage, and it's something which is held in security. If you don't pay back the loan, it gets taken off you. That's what the meaning of Rahin is. So every person is held as security for their own actions. If you didn't bring the actions of the people of Jannah, what will you forfeit? What will be taken from you? You yourself, and you will suffer the punishment. You will suffer the punishment of not doing the actions that are required from you. So it's described like a loan that has security, like a mortgage or a loan that has security. And if something is held, if you don't fulfill the conditions, you will lose it. And what is held is you yourself are held in security for your own deeds. And if you don't bring the deeds that you're required to do, then you will forfeit yourself. That's the meaning of the ayah, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
وَأَمْدَدْنَاهُمْ بِفَاكِهَةٍ وَلَحْمٍ مِّمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ. And we'll provide them with fruit and meat from whatever they desire.
Also connected to that also is the concept which is mentioned, that therefore no one is held in security for someone else's deeds. Like it's not the case that you are held in security for your father's deeds. If your father didn't do the righteous deeds, you will be taken in punishment. Rather, each person is held in security for their own deeds. No one will hold the deeds of someone else.
يتنازعون فيها كأسا لا لغو فيها ولا تأثيم. They will exchange with one another a cup of wine wherein results no ill speech or commission of sin.
And so it's not like the wine of this world. The wine of this world brings about bad speech. Any people swear at each other, shout at each other, attack each other, defame each other when they get drunk. And sin, all kinds of sin come about from drinking alcohol in this world. That's why they call it Khaba'ith, the mother of all filth. Because all kinds of sins, from transgression against people and fighting people and attacking people, and all kinds of sins that take place because of it. Like in Jannah, the wine of Jannah does not cause the people to speak bad words, and it does not cause them to engage in any sin.
ويطوف عليهم غلمان لهم كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون. They will circulate among them servant boys, especially for them, as if they were pearls well protected. وأقبل بعضهم على بعض يتساءلون. And they will approach one another in inquiring of each other.
Which surah did we hear this? The people of Jannah asking each other. Ar-Rahman. فأقبل بعضهم على بعض يتساءلون. Surah Al-Safat.
قالوا إنا كنا قبل في أهلنا مشفقين. They will say, indeed, we were previously among our people fearful of displeasing Allah.
And among our families, we were in fear of Allah.
فمن الله علينا ووقانا عذاب السموم. So Allah conferred favor upon us and protected us from the punishment of the scorching fire.
فالجزاء من جنس العمل. A person gets back what they did. They were scared of Allah, so Allah Azza wa Jal removed from them the fear of the punishment that would come.
إنا كنا من قبل ندعوه إنه هو البر الرحيم. Indeed, we used to supplicate him before. Indeed, it is he who is the beneficent, the merciful.
How were they from the people of Jannah? Because they used to make dua to Allah alone. And the dua here, sahih, can be dua ibadah and dua mas'ala. Because dua is of two types. Dua, which means ibadah, and dua meaning al-mas'ala, asking Allah. But the point is that all of their dua, their ibadah and their asking was to Allah alone. And that's why they were from the people of Jannah.
فذكر فما أنت بنعمة ربك بكاهن ولا مجنون. So remind, O Muhammad, for you are not by the favor of your Lord a soothsayer or a madman. أم يقولون شاعر نتربص به ريب المنون. Or do they say of you a poet of whom we await a misfortune of time?
Any misfortune of time, something bad to happen to you. We await something bad to happen to you in the future.
قل تربصوا فإني معكم من المتربصين. Say, wait, for indeed I am with you among the waiters. أم تأمرهم أحلامهم بهذا أم هم قوم طاغون. Or do their minds command them to say this, or are they a transgressing people?
Naam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, is it that their uqul, their intellect and their minds command them to say this. It's a very, very strong rebuke, and it's a very powerful, like in language, it's a very powerful rebuke. Because what it gives the meaning is that what you're saying is nonsensical. And what you're saying doesn't make any sense to someone who has an aql, who has an intellect that is working. What you're saying doesn't make any sense. So ask them, do they claim that this statement that he's a poet is a logical statement that comes from intelligence and thought? It's not, right? What is it coming from? It's coming from hamiyya. It's coming from chauvinism. It's coming from pride. It's coming from emotional reaction. It's not something that they have considered and they said, we've balanced up the positives and negatives, and it seems like it's most likely that this is poetry. They're not saying it based on any kind of reasoning at all. So Allah says to them, is it that your intellect is commanding you to say this? Rather, they are a transgressing people.
أم يقولون تقوله بل لا يؤمنون. Or do they say he has made it up, rather they do not believe?
And if they believed, they would not say such a thing.
فليأتوا بحديث مثله إن كانوا صادقين. Then let them produce a statement like it if they should be truthful.
And they were challenged in multiple places. They were challenged in Surah At-Tur to produce something like the Qur'an. And in Surah I was going to say Surah Yunus. I don't know. The reference here is not for Surah Yunus, so I might be wrong. Let me check it. It says here Surah Hud. Yeah, Surah Hud. I was wrong. In my mind, it was Surah Yunus. قُلْ فَأْتُوا بِعَشَرِ سُوَرٍ مِثْلِهِ مُفْتَرَيَاتٍ. You need to bring 10. So in this, they're told how much to bring. And you bring the likes of this Qur'an. And in Surah Hud, they're told, bring 10 surahs. And in Surah Baqarah, they're told, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ. Bring one single surah. And it's getting, for them, easier and easier. Like, it's not getting easier for them. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا. Never ever will they be able to do it. In the beginning, Allah said to them, bring a Qur'an like this. Then Allah said, you can't bring a Qur'an like this, no problem. Bring 10 surahs. 10 surahs is what? We memorize 10 surahs from the end of the Qur'an. And the likes of Surah Al-Fil and Surah Quraysh, Surah Al-Ma'un and Surah Inna A'tainaka Al-Kawthar. Any of the small 10 surahs from the back of the Qur'an, bring like them. They couldn't do it. Until Allah Azza wa Jalla said to them, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ. Bring one surah like it. Just bring something the likes of إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. They couldn't bring it.
أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Or were they created by nothing, or were they the creators of themselves?
Were they أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ. All of the translations say created by nothing. They take the word min here to be by. Let me see what As-Sa'di says about it, rahimahullah ta'ala. Now, he also says the same thing, that the word min here doesn't mean they were created from nothing, they were created by nothing. He said that there have to be one of three possibilities. Either خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ, and they have no creator at all. Or they created themselves. Or they created themselves. Yeah? So then they must know that there was a creator for them that was not them. And that's the ayah brings it to that. Either you came about from nothing, or did you create yourselves? And if you didn't come about from nothing, and you didn't come about from yourselves, you must have a creator which is not you. Now, who is that creator? Do you say that creator is an idol, a statue, a stone, a tree that created you? Or do you say that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created you?
أم خلقوا السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Rather, they are not certain.
I find these two ayat are very important in dealing with what we might call an example of al-adillatul aqliyah al-shar'iyyah, any evidences that are logical in nature but are approved of by the Qur'an. And the reason why we give such importance to this is many times we want to present a logical argument. For example, you're speaking to an atheist or an agnostic. You want to present a logical argument to them. You want to address them through logic. But you don't want to fall into what Jahm bin Safwan and the likes of them fell into, whereby their logic was flawed and they ended up denying part of the Qur'an because of the fact that they built for themselves a framework of logical arguments that themselves don't stand up, they're not correct. And like Shaykh al-Islam says, they thought their argument was solid. They thought their argument was valid and strong. They didn't actually see that their logic was completely false. So to avoid this, you should use the logical arguments that are used in the Qur'an and the Sunnah. And don't go outside of it. Don't try to present your own framework of convincing someone logically that Islam is the truth, but use the ayat which speak in a way that is logical. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. And also in this ayah, one thing I think is very important to think about is the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. And this is completely applicable to these people. Because whatever they say about the origins of mankind and the origins of the human race and the origins of the universe, none of it goes over the level of adhan. And even if you say to them, even if you were to say to them, bring me all of your science and your evidences and your thoughts and your theories about how we came onto this earth, every single one of them is nothing more than a theory. Because the reality is, they never witnessed it happen. And this in here, one of the things we took from the ayah is that the essence of science in reality is what you can observe and what you can repeat and what you can investigate based on something which is tangible and able to be investigated. When you're talking about the origins of the universe, there reaches a certain point where you cannot investigate any further. All you will ever have is dhan, just a guess, that's it. For example, you can use your telescopes to see a little bit about how the universe is moving and the gases are moving and where maybe that original energy came from. All of that, but there comes to a point where you cannot go any further. You are just going to guess, that's it. And that's why the answer which Allah Azza wa Jalla gives to them, بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. You people don't have yaqeen. What you have is dhan. And what this Qur'an brings you is yaqeen. And that is a very powerful argument for the one who understands it. That whatever you want to argue about, if you look at atheism today, any atheism is built around trying to find an alternative explanation for the existence of this world and the ayat of Allah that exist within it, and trying to explain them away in a way that removes the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But all that they bring is just dhan. It's not yaqeen. It doesn't compare to the standard of proof offered by the Qur'an. Even if it's claimed to be scientific in inverted commas. Even if they say this is science. But the end result is it's nothing more than a theory in which you people have put forward. You don't have certainty about it. Whereas the Muslim who reads the Qur'an, the miracle of this Qur'an, the miraculous nature of it, gives you certainty in it. So we can be 100% certain of what Allah told us in the Qur'an. Whereas these people, all they can do is guess about where they came from and come up with ideas and theories and things like that, but they cannot bring something which gives a person certainty because they were not there to observe it. And they cannot repeat it for themselves. And they cannot investigate it beyond a certain limit in time which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed for them. So in reality, they don't have any way to give you certainty about it. So we say to them, how can you deny the existence of Allah when you don't have certainty? All you have is just a guess. بَلْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. You have an issue? Maybe. Give us a moment.
أم عندهم خزائن ربك أم هم المسيطرون? Or have they the depositories containing the provision of your Lord, or are they the controllers of them? أم لهم سلم يستمعون فيه فليأت مستمعهم بسلطان مبين. Or have they a stairway into the heaven upon which they listen? Then let their listener produce a clear authority.
And let them produce a proof for what they hear.
أم له البنات ولكم البنون? Or has he daughters while you have sons? أم تسألهم أجرا فهم من مغرم مثقلون? Or do you, O Muhammad, ask of them a payment so they are by debt burdened down?
Because the prophets never asked payment from their people.
أم عندهم الغيب فهم يكتبون? Or have they knowledge of the unseen so they write it down?
So all of these things that Allah Azza wa Jal brought against them, they can have no claim to it. They can't bring any proof for any of them. And they can't prove that they have the unseen, they write it down, and they can't say the Prophet ﷺ burdened them with debt. They can't claim to have a stairway by which they listen to the heavens. They can't claim that they are the ones that control the provision of Allah. They can't claim that they created the heavens and the earth. And all of these things, they have no claim to them at all, no way to claim them.
أم يريدون كيدا فالذين كفروا هم المكيدون? Or do they intend a plan, but those who disbelieve, they are the object of a plan?
They are the ones who the plan is being put against them.
أم لهم إله غير الله سبحان الله عما يشركون? Or have they a deity other than Allah? Exalted is Allah above whatever they associate with Him.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concluded the argument against them with the greatest impossibility. You could have said, they have a stairway, they hear from the heavens, but the most impossible of all is that you have an object of worship that deserves to be worshipped instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
وَإِن يَرَوْا كِسْفًا مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ سَاقِطًا يَقُولُوا سَحَابٌ مَّرْكُومٌ. And if they were to see a fragment from the sky falling, they would say it is merely clouds heaped up.
If they were to see the punishment of Allah coming, they would say that it's clouds heaped up. Who said that? Which people said that before them? واذكر أخا عاد واذكر أخا عاد إذ أنذر قومه بالأحقاف. For the people of Ad, they said it. And the people of Ad, what did they say? They said it's a cloud. قالوا هذا عارض ممطرنا. They said, and when the punishment of Allah came against them, they said, this is the cloud that's bringing rain.
فذرهم حتى يلاقوا يومهم الذي فيه يصعقون. So leave them until they meet their day in which they will be struck insensible.
And they will be struck fainting in horror, in terror.
يوم لا يغني عنهم كيدهم شيئا ولا هم ينصرون. The day their plan will not avail them at all, nor will they be helped. وَإِنَّ لِلَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا عَذَابًا دُونَ ذَلِكَ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And indeed for those who have wronged is a punishment before that, but most of them do not know.
And the punishment is either the punishment in this world or the punishment in the grave.
وَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ فَإِنَّكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ حِينَ تَقُومُ. And be patient, O Muhammad, for the decision of your Lord, for indeed you are in our eyes, and exalt Allah with praise of your Lord when you arise.
I think here it would be better to say under our eyes, with eyes as a capital, يعني as a صفة ثابتة لله عز وجل.
وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَسَبِّحْهُ وَإِدْبَارَ النُّجُومِ. And in a part of the night exalt him, and after the setting of the stars.
And it's said that this contains all of the fard prayers and the nawafil prayers. In the last two ayat again. وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ حِينَ تَقُومُ. When you get up from sleep. وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَسَبِّحْهُ وَإِدْبَارَ النُّجُومِ. So we can continue inshallah with Surah An-Najm inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى. By the star when it descends. مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى. Your companion has not strayed, nor has he erred.
In the star when it descends, and when it fades away or when it vanishes.
وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. Nor does he speak from his own inclination.
In the Prophet Muhammad has not made an error, and he is not astray, and he doesn't speak from his own desires.
إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. It is not but revelation revealed.
And the Sunnah, which the Prophet speaks, is a revelation, just like the Qur'an is a revelation.
عَلَّمَهُ شَدِيدُ الْقُوَى. Taught to him by one intense in strength.
In Jibril alayhi salatu wassalam.
ذُو مِرَّةٍ فَاسْتَوَى. One of soundness, and he rose to his true form.
Any soundness means he's free of defect. And Jibril appeared to the Prophet Muhammad in the form that he was created. As for the Sahaba, they only saw Jibril in the form of a person. Do you know which Sahabi Jibril used to come in the form of? Dihya al-Kalbi radiyallahu anhu. Jibril used to come in the form radiyallahu anhu. He used to take the form of him. But the Prophet saw him in his original form.
وهو بالأفق الأعلى, while he was in the higher part of the horizon. ثم دنا فتدلى, then he approached and descended. فكان قاب قوسين أو أدنى, and was at a distance of 2 bow lengths or nearer.
2 bow lengths.
Or bow. فأوحى إلى عبده ما أوحى, and he revealed to his servant what he revealed.
And Allah revealed through Jibreel to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That's the meaning of the ayah here. It's a change in reference, and it happens in the Arabic language. It's a part of eloquence, is that there's a change in reference, and from he to he here. So Allah revealed through Jibreel to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى, the heart did not lie about what it saw.
The Prophet's heart did not lie.
أفتمارونه على ما يرى, so will you dispute with him over what he saw?
During the ascent, during the Mi'raj.
وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى, and he certainly saw him in another descent.
And he saw him another time. He saw the angel descend on another occasion, which was during the Mi'raj. The Prophet ﷺ saw Jibreel in his true form.
عند سدرة المنتهى, at the lote tree of the utmost boundary.
The lote tree is the Sidrah, and the Muntaha, it is the end of the 7th heaven, the boundary beyond which Jibreel could not pass.
عندها جنة المأوى, near is the garden of refuge. إذ يغشى السدرة ما يغشى, when they covered the lote tree, that which covered it.
When they covered the Sidrah, and it said it was covered by the light of Allah Azza wa Jal, and was covered by the angels, and there's different views about what covered it. But it was covered with splendor and majesty, and some of them said it was covered by the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
ما زاغ البصر وما طغى, the sight of the Prophet ﷺ did not swerve, nor did it transgress its limit.
In what he saw, it was not that his sight did not lie to him in what he saw.
لقد رأى من آيات ربه الكبرى, he certainly saw of the greatest signs of his Lord.
In the Mi'raj, when he was taken to the heavens.
أفرأيتم اللات والعزى, so have you considered Al-Lat and Al-Uzza?
Al-Lat and Al-Uzza were 2 of the idols of the mushrikeen, 2 of the idols of the mushrikeen of Makkah, Al-Lat and Al-Uzza. And also it's important to note that they say that the names are twisted versions of the names of Allah Azza wa Jal. They twisted the names of Allah and they brought these names from them, Al-Lat and Al-Uzza. One of them was a grave and a stone that was worshipped. Another one was a tree.
وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى, and Manat, the other one.
Now, Manat was the 3rd of the main idols that was worshipped by the pagans of Quraysh. Now, and here is where it is said that Shaitan cast into the recitation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it said that Shaitan cast into the recitation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, تلك الغرانيق العلا وإن شفاعتهن لترتجى, or something close to that. And that's what it's called, Qissatul Gharaniq. And there's a difference of opinion regarding whether it happened or not. The narrations for it are not strong. Did it happen that Shaitan cast into the recitation of the Prophet ﷺ that Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat, their shafa'ah will be accepted by Allah? However, the ayah which we spoke about I'll give you the reference because it's gone out of my mind. Surah Al-Hajj, ayah number 52. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ مِنْ رَسُولٍ وَلَا نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا إِذَا تَمَنَّى أَلْقَى الشَّيْطَانُ فِي أُمْنِيَّتِهِ. We never sent before any prophet or any messenger except that at one point in their message, shaitan put something into their recitation. And this is the sunnah of Allah Azza wa Jal, that every prophet, there was a moment where shaitan put something into the recitation of that prophet. And then Allah Azza wa Jal showed the people that this was not from Allah, but it was from the shaitan, and Allah made his ayat clear to the people. There are two views. One view says we don't know what the shaitan cast into the recitation of the Prophet ﷺ. And this story is not correct, the story of Al-Gharaniq. They said it's the narrations are weak, and we don't know what was cast in. We just know that every prophet, something was cast into their recitation, which caused a confusion to the people who followed the shaitan until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed the truth of the message. However, if you take the story of Al-Gharaniq along with the ayah in Surah Al-Hajj, some of the scholars strengthened it. Some of them strengthened it and said that this is correct. Actually, the story of Al-Gharaniq happened. That when the Prophet ﷺ recited these ayat, shaitan recited after it that their intercession will be accepted. And this caused a confusion to the pagans. It doesn't cause a confusion to the Muslims. And the Muslims, they knew that this was from the shaitan. But it caused a confusion to the pagans. However, the question is it true that this was the reason for the sajda at the end of Surah An-Najm? I don't think so. I don't think there's a strong evidence that the sajda at the end of Surah An-Najm is a place where Quraysh made sajda, even upon their kufr. In a state of kufr, they made sajda when the last ayah of Surah An-Najm came down. However, the correct reason, and Allah knows best, is that they made sajda because of fear. From the nations that were mentioned that would be destroyed, they got so scared that they made sajda from it. And not that they made sajda because of Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat. But the issue of whether it's true that shaitan cast this into the recitation of the Prophet ﷺ, that the shafa'ah of Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat would be accepted, there's ulama who strengthened it, there's scholars who strengthened it. And they said that the ayah in Surah Al-Hajj, the tafsir of it comes from that. That the shaitan cast a doubt into the minds of the pagans to make them think that Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat, their shafa'ah would be accepted. And then this is only momentary. It's only momentary, right? It's not like something that lasts for years where people are confused. For a moment. And then Allah Azza wa Jal makes clear the ayat. And if you refer back to the tafsir of Surah Al-Hajj, and it becomes clear.
أَلَكُمُ الذَّكَرُ وَلَهُ الْأُنثَى. Is the male for you and for him the female? تِلْكَ إِذَا قِسْمَةٌ ضِيزَى. That then is an unjust division.
Biased, because by your own standards, you say that girls are a punishment. Muslims don't believe this. You people, you pagan Arabs believe that girls are a punishment. And then what do you say about Allah? You say Allah has only girls and has no boys. For by your own standards, this is an unfair distribution. That you say that girls are a punishment and girls are a sign that Allah doesn't love you and so on. All these things they said. Then how do you say that Allah has only girls and you have only boys?
إن هي إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان إن يتبعون إلا الظن وما تهوى الأنفس ولقد جاءهم من ربهم الهدى. They are not but mere names, you have named them, you and your forefathers, for which Allah has sent down no authority. They follow not except assumption and what their souls desire, and there has already come to them from their Lord guidance.
And these names, the names of their idols, are just names that you and your forefathers made up. Allah never sent down any authority for them. You follow adh-dhan, you follow a guess, and you follow what your souls desire after guidance already came to you.
أم للإنسان ما تمنى, or is there for man whatever he wishes?
And either whatever idols, whatever intercessors he wishes, or just whatever he wishes generally. And does a person get everything that they wish for?
فَلِلَّهِ الْآخِرَةُ وَالْأُولَى, rather to Allah belongs the hereafter and the first life. وَكَمْ مِنْ مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ أَنْ يَأْذَنَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَرْضَى. And how many angels there are in the heavens whose intercession will not avail at all except only after Allah has permitted it to whom He wills and approves.
In this ayah tells us first of all the validity of the intercession of the angels, that the angels will intercede for some people. But it tells us that all intercession has to pass by 3 rules for it to be accepted. 3 conditions. The first one is that Allah Azza wa Jal has to give permission for that intercession to take place. It cannot take place without Allah's permission. The second is that Allah must be pleased with the intercessor. For example, the angel or the prophet or the believer who intercedes. And the third is that Allah must be pleased with the one who is interceded for. And Allah will only be pleased with the people of Islam and Tawheed. And Allah Azza wa Jal will not be pleased with the people of Shirk or Kufr. So, if that is the case, we only seek intercession from Allah. Because intercession cannot take place not from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ or from any angel unless Allah gives permission for it and is pleased with the intercessor and the one who is being interceded for.
إن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة ليسمون الملائكة تسمية الأنثى. Indeed, those who do not believe in the hereafter name the angels female names. وما لهم به من علم إن يتبعون إلا الظن وإن الظن لا يغني من الحق شيئا. And they have thereof no knowledge. They follow not except assumption, and indeed assumption avails not against the truth at all.
And they have no knowledge. They follow what they guess. And guessing doesn't change the truth at all. What you guess doesn't make something, it doesn't affect the truth at all.
فأعرض عمن تولى عن ذكرنا ولم يرد إلا الحياة الدنيا. So turn away from whoever turns his back on our message and desires not accept the worldly life.
And desiring not accept the worldly life, we've said, the blameworthy situation is to make the worldly life your only concern or your primary concern. But it's not blameworthy to want success in the worldly life along with or in order to gain success in the akhirah. But it's blameworthy to want success in the worldly life to the exclusion of the akhirah or to give the worldly life priority over the akhirah.
ذلك مبلغهم من العلم إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بمن اهتدى. That is their sum of knowledge. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who stays up from his way, and he is most knowing of who is guided.
And that's the extent of their knowledge. And that shows you that the kuffar, you should not be amazed by their knowledge of this dunya. Sometimes we are amazed by the knowledge that the kuffar have of this dunya. We're amazed by their technology, by their knowledge of science, or their knowledge of medicine, or their knowledge of engineering, whatever it might be. First of all, this knowledge is not limited to the kuffar. Rather, the Muslims have it, the kuffar have it, but you can be amazed that the kuffar excel so much in the matters of this dunya. But you shouldn't be, because this is the only knowledge they have. The knowledge they have does not exceed knowledge of this world. Where did we hear this before? In which surah? Surah Ar-Rum. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. And that's a very blameworthy thing to be. Even as a Muslim, that's blameworthy. It's not blameworthy to know the dunya, but it's blameworthy that you don't know anything about the akhirah when you know about the dunya. And I once said that to a group of people. We were gathered together, and I saw in the audience we had some very prominent, very knowledgeable people as it relates to the matters of the dunya, Muslims. Some very prominent doctors and engineers, and mathematicians and scientists. And they were all gathered together. And many people in the room were very, very prominent, very knowledgeable in the worldly matters. So I said to them, look, it's not blameworthy that you know a lot about medicine, or that you're one of the leading surgeons, and you're one of the leading scientists, and you're one of the leading doctors, and you're one of the leading, whatever it is. This is not blameworthy. But what's blameworthy is if you, along with that, you don't know your religion. Then it's blameworthy that you don't know your religion, but you know everything there needs to be known about this particular field that you're in, this particular science you are in. You know everything, or many things about it. But when it comes to the akhirah, when it comes to the deen, you don't know anything about it. This is blameworthy. So as a Muslim, there's nothing wrong with excelling in knowledge of al-ulum ad-dunyawiyah, the worldly sciences. Now here I'll bring you a little fa'idah. Personally, I don't like calling them secular sciences, because they're not secular. Those sciences have been placed by Allah Azza wa Jal, like science and medicine, engineering and technology and all of that, have been placed at our service, like everything in the world has been placed at our service, to facilitate for us our life on this world so that we can worship Allah Azza wa Jal with ease. So they're not secular at all. And it's not, Muslims don't see medicine to be a secular form of knowledge. It's not, what is secular about it? Why do we separate religion from it? We don't separate religion from it. And for us, we see this as a means to remain healthy so we can worship Allah Azza wa Jal. A means perhaps that a person's life could be saved so that person can go on. We don't separate it from the religion like that. Nor do we say that, generally speaking, the motivation was religious. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time when Muslims made advances in the worldly sciences, it was because of religion. And religion was the motivation that made them. And there was a religious reason, whether it was determining the location of the qibla at night or something like that. So they made advances in the movement of the stars and understanding it and so on. Or mathematics, where the goal was, and to do with things in the religion, things like fara'id, the inheritance and the division of the inheritance. And why did Muslims learn all of those things? And then they advanced in them because they served a purpose in the religion. So that is, don't let yourself be someone who the world is the extent of your knowledge. Like in the dua, which is reported, وَلَا تَجْعَلِ الدُّنْيَا أَكْبَرَ هَمِّنَا وَلَا مَبْلَغَ عِلْمِنَا. Don't make this dunya our biggest concern, and don't make it the limit of our knowledge. We didn't say, oh Allah, don't teach us this world. But don't make the knowledge of this world the only thing we know.
My battery died, so just read the translation. The charge is coming. فأعرض عمن تولى عن ذكرنا ولم يرد إلا الحياة الدنيا.
Afwan, I'm lost. Did we?
We read that ayah already.
Yes.
No, we read.
Oh, in what?
Now,
ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ليجزي الذين أساءوا بما عملوا ويجزي الذين أحسنوا بالحسنى.
And to Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, that He may recompense those who do evil with the penalty of what they have done, and recompense those who do good with the best reward. So here again, al-jaza min jins al-amal. Those people who did evil, they get a suitable penalty for the evil they did. Jaza and wifaqa. A suitable penalty for the evil they did. And those people who did ihsan, they are given in return for it ihsan, al-husna, which is paradise or the best of reward.
الذين يجتنبون كبائر الإثم والفواحش إلا اللمم إن ربك واسع المغفرة هو أعلم بكم إذ أنشأكم من الأرض وإذ أنتم أجنة في بطون أمهاتكم فلا تزكوا أنفسكم هو أعلم بمن اتقى.
Those who avoid the major sins and immoralities, only committing slight ones. Indeed, your Lord is vast in forgiveness. He was most knowing of you when He produced you from the earth, and when you were fetuses in the wombs of your mothers, so do not claim yourselves to be pure. He is most knowing of the one who has taqwa of Him. So first of all, those who avoid the major sins. We've already spoken about this, I think Surah An-Nisa, we spoke about it. The people who avoid the major sins. The major sins are those sins about which Allah says about them, or the Prophet ﷺ says about them, that the curse of Allah, or Allah's anger, or the hellfire, or Allah's punishment is upon the person who does this. For example, take for example, riba. Take for example, riba. فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Take notice of a war from Allah and His Messenger. Or Allah describes it as being azim or kabir. Na'am. It is something which has a specific punishment mentioned for it. As for those things that don't have specific punishments mentioned for them, they're known to be incorrect, they're wrong, but they're not mentioned as being severe in the sight of Allah. Or they're not mentioned that they bring about the punishment of Allah, or something similar to that. Then these sins that it's said about them, these are what we call the smaller sins, or the lesser sins. Any the smaller sins, or the smaller sins, or the lesser sins. That doesn't mean these sins are insignificant. We're not saying these sins don't mean anything. They're sins, they mean something. But they are not the major sins. So the first thing that to make you, to take you out of al-fisq, defiant disobedience, the first thing that takes a person out of al-fisq is they leave the kaba'ir, they don't do the kaba'ir. And subhanAllah, sometimes it troubles us to look at yourself and you think, wallahi, how many of the kaba'ir we fall into, like backbiting and lying and slandering. We fall into so many major sins, let alone minor sins. But there's another principle which is very important, which is a minor sin which is repeated over and over again without care becomes a major sin. It's not the sin itself. Let's take something minor. Let's take a minor sin. Let's say, for example, a minor sin, like let's say, for example, something of bad language, for example. A rude word or something like that. Something which is not a terrible statement of disbelief or It's not something which is from fisq. It's just somebody said something rude to say. That itself, if you keep on doing it over and over again, shows you don't care about it. And that showing you don't care about it makes it a major sin. Allah Azza wa Jal has vast forgiveness for the person who seeks it. Allah Azza wa Jal knows everything about you. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought you out from the earth, and when you were a jinnah, a jinnah here, the janeen, we know the word jinn, it means to be concealed from sight. Even the word Jannah is a garden that is concealed from sight. And the jinn are concealed from sight. And the janeen, the ajinnah, or the fetus in the womb of the mother, is concealed from sight. That's why all of them use the same or similar words for them. فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Here we have to stop and ask ourselves an important question. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us, do not make tazkiyah of yourselves. How do we reconcile that with the ayah, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا? Successful is the one who makes tazkiyah of himself. It's important. We have an ayah in Surah Al-Shams which tells us that to be successful, you have to make tazkiyah of yourself. And we have an ayah in Surah An-Najm which tells us, whatever you do, do not make tazkiyah of yourself. So how do we reconcile these two things? So tazkiyah in Surah An-Najm is to declare yourself to be pure. And tazkiyah in Surah Al-Shams is to work to purify yourself. So Allah requires you to work in purifying your soul, but not to make a claim that you are pure. And this is a principle. فَلَكُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. That's, for example, don't let a person claim to be from the awliya of Allah, Allah's beloved servants. Allah knows better the one who has at-taqwa.
أَفَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي تَوَلَّى. Have you not seen the one who turned away?
No.
وَأَعْطَى قَلِيلًا وَأَكْدَى, and gave a little and then refrained. أَعِندَهُ عِلْمُ الْغَيْبِ فَهُوَ يَرَى. Does he have knowledge of the unseen so he sees? أَمْ لَمْ يُنَبَّأْ بِمَا فِي صُحُفِ مُوسَى. Or has he not been informed of what was in the scriptures of Musa? وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ الَّذِي وَفَّى, and of Ibrahim who fulfilled his obligations. أَلَّا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى, that no bearer of burdens will bear the burden of another. وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, and that there is not for man except that good for which he strives. وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى, and that his effort is going to be seen. ثُمَّ يُجْزَاهُ الْجَزَاءَ الْأَوْفَى, then he will be recompensed for it with the fullest recompense. وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنتَهَى, and that to your Lord is the finality.
There's another view regarding the ayah, وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى, that al-muntaha means the sifat of kamal, the attributes of perfection, and that al-muntaha is absolute perfection. So al-muntaha can mean the return, the final return of everything will be to Allah. But al-muntaha can also mean perfection, meaning that to your Lord belongs the attributes of perfection. And to your Lord is the final return of all things, and everything, how it ends up, is only known by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ أَضْحَكَ وَأَبَكَى, and that is he who makes one laugh and weep.
Makes you laugh and makes you cry.
وأنه هو أمات وأحيا, and that is he who causes death and gives life. وأنه خلق الزوجين الذكر والأنثى, and that he creates the two mates, the male and female. من نطفة إذا تمنى, from a sperm drop when it is emitted. وأن عليه النشأة الأخرى, and that incumbent upon him is the other creation.
Meaning that the previous ayat talk about the creation of man the first time. The same one who created man the first time will recreate man again for the day of resurrection.
وأنه هو أغنى وأقنى, and that is he who enriches and suffices. وأنه هو رب الشعرى, and that is he who is the Lord of Shi'ra.
Naam, of a shi'ra, any Sirius, I think they call
Sirius.
it. It's a star which the pagan Arabs used to worship. That also shows, by the way, which is a very important point, is it's from the evidences that show the variety of worship among the pagan Arabs. This is very important because later people will come and say the pagan Arabs only worship statues, and that is the problem. Yani that's the khusuma between them and the Prophet ﷺ. And if they worshipped graves, they wouldn't have been wrong. Or if they worshipped the stars, they wouldn't have been wrong. You have to show, or if they worshipped the prophets, they wouldn't have been wrong. Or if they worshipped the angels, what you have to show is the variety of the worship that existed among the pagan Arabs includes worshipping the stars and the angels and the prophets and the trees. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't distinguish between those things. He didn't say, oh, you guys are okay because you worship the angels, but you're wrong because you worship statues. And he treated them all the same, regardless of whether they worshipped prophets or angels or statues or stones or stars. He considered all of them to be the same.
وَأَنَّهُ أَهْلَكَ عَادًا الْأُولَى, and that he destroyed the first people of Ad. وَثَمُودَ فَمَا أَبْقَى, and Thamud, and he did not spare them.
It's said that Thamud are known as the second Ad. That's a view. And there's an ikhtilaf about Ad al-Ula. Who are the second Ad? But it's said that Ad, some of them took the view that Ad al-Ula are the people of Hud, and that Ad, the second Ad al-Thaniya, are the people of Salih.
وَقَوْمَ نُوحٍ مِّن قَبْلُ إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا هُمْ أَظْلَمَ وَأَطْغَى, and the people of Nuh before, indeed it was they who was even more unjust and oppressing.
Just one moment, I wanted to... Now, Sa'idi doesn't mention it, I'll try and bring it for you. A discussion on why were the people of Nuh more unjust. I'll bring it for you, inshallah. I'll make a note to add to it later.
وَالْمُؤْتَفِكَةَ أَهْوَى, and the overturned towns he hurled down.
The towns of the people of Lut.
فَغَشَّاهَا مَا غَشَّا, and covered them by that which he covered.
In a rain of stones.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكَ تَتَمَارَى, then which of the favors of your Lord do you doubt?
In the favors of Allah Azza wa Jal, giving them food and safety and security in Mecca and victory over their enemies, as is mentioned in Surah Quraysh. لإلاف قريش إلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف.
هذا نذير من النذر الأولى. This Prophet ﷺ is a warner from the former warners.
And here is what started to make Quraysh scared. Because Allah told them about the people that they knew Allah destroyed. They knew about Ad and Thamud and the people of Nuh. They believed in it. And then Allah Azza wa Jal tells Quraysh that the Prophet Muhammad has come the same way that those other prophets came. And indicating that the punishment is very near to you.
أزفت الآزفة, the approaching day has approached.
And this is what really terrified them. And what really caused them to shake in fear is that Allah said to them, Azifatil azif. That your destruction, the day of your destruction has come very close.
ليس لها من دون الله كاشفة. Of it from those besides Allah, there is no remover.
And in none of your idols, no one can remove it except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
أفمن هذا الحديث تعجبون. Then at this statement do you wonder? وتضحكون ولا تبكون. And you laugh and do not weep. وأنتم سامدون. While you are proudly sporting.
Yani you are amusing yourselves. This includes singing, yani lost in amusement.
فَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ وَاعْبُدُوا. So prostrate to Allah and worship Him.
And this is from the ayat of the place of sujood, tilawa. After this, the only is left is 2, right? In the 2 that are in Juz Amma. So this will be number 13 of the 15 places of sujood tilawa. And this is the place that it's reported that Quraysh fell down in sajda because of fear. Yani because they feared azifatil azifah, that qiyamah is about to come upon you. And the qiyamah, Yawm al-Din is about to come upon you. Like in everybody's qiyamah starts with when they die. So the destruction of your people is about to happen. Like Nuh and Ad, the people of Nuh and the people of Ad and the people of Thamud and the people of Lut, that you know were destroyed and you've seen their destruction, it's about to happen to you. So out of fear they fell down in prostration, but not in Islam. And that's why the rumor spread that they had become Muslim. And the Muslims returned from Abyssinia, from Al-Habasha, thinking that Quraysh had accepted Islam. When in fact, they had not accepted Islam, but they were struck by terror. I think it's a good place for us to take a break because we're not quite halfway in the juz, but it's good for us to take a little break, inshallah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalamu ala abdillahi wa rasulih Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ma ba'd. So we continue. That break was a lot longer than I thought it would be. But no problem, inshallah. Let's continue, inshallah. Surah Al-Qamar.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The hour has come near and the moon has split in 2.
The moon was split as a miracle. The Prophet ﷺ was asked by Quraysh to show a miracle. So he showed them the splitting of the moon.
وَإِن يَرَوْا آيَةً يُعْرِضُوا وَيَقُولُوا سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. And if they see a sign, they turn away and say passing magic.
And it's the same continuous magic. And every time they see a sign, they explain it away. They say it's the same continuing magic as before.
وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٌ. And they denied and followed their inclinations, but for every matter is a time of settlement.
And every matter will be settled in terms of paradise and hellfire and who will be in it. Everything will be settled.
وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ مِنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. And there's already come to them of information that in which there is deterrence.
And they have come to them news in the Qur'an which should deter them from their evil.
حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. Extensive wisdom, but warning does not avail them.
Allah has hikmah baligha subhanahu wa ta'ala, infinite wisdom.
فَتَوَلْعُ الدَّاعِ إِلَى شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ. So leave them, O Muhammad, the day the caller calls to something forbidding.
Yani something horrifying. An angel who will announce the judgment. Something terrible, something horrifying.
خش عن أبصارهم يخرجون من الأجداث كأنهم جراد منتشر. Their eyes humble, they will emerge from the graves as if they were locusts spreading. مهطعين إلى الداع يقول الكافرون هذا يوم عسر. Racing ahead toward the caller, the disbelievers will say, this is a difficult day. كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح فكذبوا عبدنا وقالوا مجنون وازدجر. The people of Noah denied before them and denied our servant and said a madman, and he was repelled.
And he was threatened. The surah is Makkiyah, by the way. And it's also called Surah Iqtarabat. In Surah Al-Qamar. فعلى كل حال was dujir, and he was rebuked, he was threatened, he was intimidated.
فدعا ربه أني مغلوب فانتصر. So he invoked his Lord, indeed I am overpowered, so help. ففتحنا أبواب السماء بماء منهمر. Then we opened the gates of the heaven with rain pouring down. وفجرنا الأرض عيونا فالتقى الماء على أمر قد قدر. And caused the earth to burst with springs, and the waters met for a matter already predestined.
Now, the sky and the earth, in the rain, the flood of Noah, the earth brought out its water, and the sky brought down its water, and the two waters met, the water from the sky and the water from the earth.
وحملناه على ذات ألواح ودسر. And we carried him on a construction of planks and nails.
In the ship.
تجري بأعيننا جزاء لمن كان كفر. Sailing under our observation,
now,
as
sailing under our eyes.
Our eyes, as reward for he who had been denied.
There's no reason to say observation here. تجري بأعيننا, sailing under our eyes.
وَلَقَدْ تَرَكْنَاهَا آيَةً فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And we left it as a sign, so is there any who will remember?
Either the flood or the ship as a sign.
فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ. And how severe were my punishment and warning.
And to the people of Noah.
وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And we have certainly made the Qur'an easy for remembrance, so is there any who will remember?
Now this is from the miracles of the Qur'an. From the miracles of the Qur'an is that the Qur'an has been made easy for a person to remember. Its words are easy to memorize, and it's easy to recite. It's easy to understand, and it's easy to take knowledge from, because it is the best of speech in words and the most truthful in meaning, and it is the clearest in tafsir. So everyone who turns to the Qur'an, Allah Azza wa Jal makes it easy for them to be able to take from it, to read it, to recite it. And from the evidences of this is you see people who Arabic is not their language, yet they find the Qur'an easy to recite. And that's a miracle in reality. And in which book can you say that if you gave someone a book in a language, let's just say somebody gave you a book in Mandarin Chinese, would you be able to read that book so easily and so comfortably, and just to be able to go into it even though you don't speak that language? You would say, no, I could not do it. And in the letters, I can't read them, the words, I can't pronounce them. Yet how easy has Allah made it for us to access the Qur'an? How easy is it to memorize? Which other book can you see that people memorize 600 pages? I'm not talking about a few people. There's always a few rare people who memorize things. Don't be surprised. You have some people memorize the Kutub al-Sitta, some people memorize any big books of hadith, big books of any poetry. But for the majority, and for huge, vast numbers of people to memorize something, nothing is like the Qur'an. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So won't there be somebody who takes on board what Allah has made easy for you and actually fulfills that by learning, memorizing, understanding, reading, reciting the Qur'an?
ولقد يسرنا كذا بعد. Did we read ولقد يسرنا القرآن?
وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ.
Did we read it or am I reading?
Just
read it, right? كذبت عاد فكيف كان عذابي ونذر. I denied, and how severe were my punishment and warning.
Any to them.
إنا أرسلنا عليهم ريحا صرصرا في يوم نحس مستمر. Indeed, we sent upon them a screaming wind on a day of continuous misfortune. تنزع الناس كأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر. Extracting the people as if they were trunks of palm trees uprooted.
And he's snatching the people. The wind snatched the people, leaving them like the uprooted palm trees.
فكيف كان عذابي ونذر. And how severe were my punishment and warning.
And the punishment and warning that had been mentioned in the previous ayat.
ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر. And we have certainly made the Qur'an easy for remembrance, so is there anyone who will remember? Any who will remember?
So we mentioned this is not a repetition in the sense that it's not the same thing again, but it's contextual. So each one of them relates to the context of what is said before it.
كذبت ثمود بالنذر. Thamud denied the warning. فقالوا
أبشرا منا واحدا. I can read the English for you if you just.
فقالوا أبشرا منا واحدا نتبعه إنا إذا لفي ضلال وسعر. And said, is it one human being among us that we should follow in error and madness?
Now, I want to read to you what As-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala said about the repetition of the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. He said, كرر تعالى ذلك رحمة بعباده وعناية بهم حيث دعاهم إلى ما يصلح دينهم وأخراهم. He said that Allah Azza wa Jal called them, He repeated it as a mercy to them and out of care for them. And He's saying to them, after you've heard the story of Ad, the Qur'an has been made easy to you. Now remember what you've been told. After you've heard the story of Nuh, the Qur'an has been made easy to you. Now remember what you've been. And from each of these, take a reminder and a remembrance. And don't be heedless of what is said to you in the Qur'an. And like that. So each one of them is depending on the context.
ألقي الذكر عليه من بيننا بل هو كذاب أشر. Has the message been sent down upon him from among us? Rather, he is an insolent liar. سيعلمون غدا من الكذاب الأشر. They will know tomorrow who is the insolent liar.
That was what was revealed to Salih. It was said to Salih, they will come to know tomorrow who is the insolent liar.
إنا مرسل الناقة فتنة لهم فارتقبهم واصطبر. Indeed, we are sending the she-camel as trial for them, so watch them and be patient.
And this was also said to Salih, alayhi salatu wassalam.
وَنَبِّئْهُمْ أَنَّ الْمَاءَ قِسْمَةٌ بَيْنَهُمْ كُلُّ شِرْبٍ مُحْتَضَرٍ. And inform them that the water is shared between them, each day of drink attended by turn. فَنَادَوْا صَاحِبَهُمْ فَتَعَاطَى فَعَقَرَ. But they called their companion and he dared and hamstrung her.
Yani he was the worst of them, meaning the worst of the people of Thamud. Yani, and he took his sword and he killed the camel with his sword. That's what they said. Some of them said, فَتَعَاطَى, yani he took his sword. And some of them said he dared to kill the camel.
فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ, and how severe were my punishment and warning.
Yani to them.
إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ صَيْحَةً وَاحِدَةً فَكَانُوا كَهَشِيمِ الْمُحْتَضِرِ. Indeed, we sent upon them one shriek, and they became like the dry twig fragments of an animal pen. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And we have certainly made the Qur'an easy for remembrance, so is there anyone who will remember? كَذَّبَتْ قَوْمُ لُوطٍ بِالنُّذُرِ. The people of Lut denied the warning. إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ حَاصِبًا إِلَّا آلَ لُوطٍ نَجَّيْنَاهُمْ بِسَحَرٍ. Indeed, we sent upon them a storm of stones, except the family of Lut, we saved them before dawn. نِعْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِنَا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي مَنْ شَكَرَ. As favor from us, thus do we reward he who is grateful.
And the one who is grateful, Allah Azza wa Jal will save them in the time of a calamity.
وَلَقَدْ أَنذَرَهُمْ بَطَشَتَنَا فَتَمَارَوْا بِالنُّذُرِ. And he had already warned them of our assault, but they disputed the warning.
And of the severe punishment that would come to them, Lut had already warned his people.
وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدُوهُ عَنْ ضَيْفِهِ فَطَمَسْنَا أَعْيُنَهُمْ فَذُوقُوا عَذَابِي وَنُذُرِ. And they demanded from him his guests, but we obliterated their eyes, saying, taste my punishment and warning.
And they demanded, and they sought to seduce his guests, the angels who came in the form of handsome men. So we blinded their eyes.
وَلَقَدْ صَبَّحَهُمْ بُكْرَةً عَذَابٌ مُسْتَقِرٌ. And there came upon them by morning an abiding punishment. فَذُوقُوا عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ. So taste my punishment and warning.
Any abiding punishment, any punishment, it's unrelenting, it doesn't stop.
وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And we have certainly made the Qur'an easy for remembrance, so is there anyone who will remember? وَلَقَدْ جَاءَ آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ النُّذُرُ. And there certainly came to the people of Fir'aun warning. كذبوا بآياتنا كلها فأخذناهم أخذ عزيز مقتدر. They denied our signs, all of them, so we seized them with a siege of one exalted in might and perfect in ability. أكفاركم خير من أولئكم أم لكم براءة في الزبر. Are you disbelievers better than those former ones, or have you immunity in the scriptures?
Now this is, and all of that was mentioned is mentioned for the sake of the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, أَكُفَّارُكُمْ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أُولَٰئِكُمْ. Do you think that you people in Mecca are superior to those people that were destroyed? Or has Allah given you immunity that you don't need to be worried about punishment? Have you got a scripture that says that you are immune from Allah's punishment?
أم يقولون نحن جميع منتصر. Or do they say we are an assembly supporting each other?
And we are a great number of people who will definitely be victorious.
سيهزم الجمع ويولون الدبر. The assembly will be defeated and they will turn their backs in retreat.
On the day of Badr.
بل الساعة موعدهم والساعة أدهى وأمر. but the hour is their appointment for due punishment, and the hour is more disastrous and more bitter. إن المجرمين في ضلال وسعر. Indeed, the criminals are in error and madness.
In error and su'ur, some of them said madness, others said that the meaning is inside of a blazing fire. Su'ur, like وَيَصْلَوْنَ سَعِيرًا, they will enter a blazing fire.
يوم يسحبون في النار على وجوههم ذوقوا مس سقر. The day they are dragged into the fire on their faces, it will be said, taste the touch of saqar.
Saqar is one of the names of the hellfire.
إنا كل شيء خلقناه بقدر. Indeed, all things we created with predestination.
With qadr, every single thing has been created with predestination in the Lawh al-Mahfuz.
وما أمرنا إلا واحدة كلمح بالبصر. And our command is but one, like a glance of the eye.
The command kun fayakun, be and it is.
وَلَقَدْ أَهْلَكْنَا أَشْيَاعَكُمْ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And we have already destroyed your kind, so is there any who will remember?
The Shia of the previous people, and the people who resemble you from those who denied the messengers.
وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ فَعَلُوهُ فِي الزُّبُرِ. And everything they did is in written records. وَكُلُّ صَغِيرٍ وَكَبِيرٍ مُسْتَطَرٍ. And every small and great thing is inscribed. إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَنَهَرٍ. Indeed, the righteous will be among gardens and rivers. في مقعد صدق عند مليك مقتدر. In a seat of honor near a sovereign, perfect in ability.
So from the names of Allah Azza wa Jal is Al-Malik and Al-Muqtadir, the one who is perfect in ability, and nothing is difficult for him. He does whatever he wills, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah Ar-Rahman.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman, the most merciful.
Because Ar-Rahman is the description of the sifa of Allah Azza wa Jal. That Allah Azza wa Jal in himself is the one who has infinite mercy.
علم القرآن, taught the Qur'an. خلق الإنسان, created man. علمه البيان, and taught him eloquence.
Any eloquent speech.
الشمس والقمر بحسبان, the sun and the moon move by precise calculation. وَالنَّجْمُ وَالشَّجَرُ يَسْجُدَانِ, and the stars and trees prostrate.
And either it means that they submit to the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal, and in obedience. They submit to the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal in obedience. Also An-Najm, some of them said that An-Najm is not the stars here, but the herbs. The plants, the vegetation. And for some of them said An-Najm is the vegetation and Ash-Shajar are the trees, and some of them said An-Najm is the stars. But the meaning is the same.
وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانَ, and the heaven he raised and imposed the balance. أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ, that you do not transgress within the balance.
Just a moment. I want to see for you Sa'di. He says the Najm is Nujum al-Sama. It's the stars in the sky. And he says here with regard to al-mizan here, that going against the balance is any kinds of transgression and tyranny and oppression.
وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان, and establish weight in justice and do not make deficient the balance. وَالْأَرْضَ وَضَعَهَا لِلْأَنَامِ, and the earth he laid out for the creatures. فِيهَا فَاكِهَةٌ وَالنَّخْلُ ذَاتُ الْأَكْمَامِ, therein is fruit and palm trees having sheaths of dates.
Any date stalks.
وَالْحَبُّ ذُو الْعَصْفِ وَالرَّيْحَانِ, and grain having husks and scented plants. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, so which of the favors of your Lord would you deny?
And it should really be, would you both deny? So from now when you read it, just because it needs to have both here. تُكَذِّبَانِ, yani man and jinn. Man and jinn. And again, this is not repetition, but what's going to happen is each time the favors, the ala, are the ones mentioned
and he created the jinn from a smokeless flame of fire.
It said that it's the hottest part of the flame.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, so which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny?
And the fact that he created you like this and brought you into the creation that you're in now, how can you deny the favors of Allah Azza wa Jal upon you, O group of men and jinn?
رَبُّ الْمَشْرِقَيْنِ وَرَبُّ الْمَغْرِبَيْنِ, he is Lord of the two sunrises and Lord of the two sunsets.
And we've spoken about that, the ikhtilaf with regard to what it means. It said that it refers to the points of sunrise in the east and sunset in the west, in the summer and the winter. The variation in the sunset. We spoke about it already. وَرَبِّ الْمَشَارِقِ وَالْمَغَارِبِ. In one of the ayat, we already spoke about it.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, so which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? مَرَجَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ يَلْتَقِيَانِ, he released the two seas meeting one another.
And many of them said the two seas are the two bodies of water, the fresh water and the salt water. Many of them said that.
بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ, between them is a barrier so neither of them transgresses.
And they cannot cross it. Neither the salty water can cross into the fresh water, nor can the fresh water cross into the salty water.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, so which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? Or both deny?
Because what would happen if your fresh water became salty? And you would not be able to drink, you would not be able to live. So how can you deny the blessings of Allah Azza wa Jal that He gave upon you, O group of jinn and men?
يَخْرُجُ مِنْهُمَا اللُّؤْلُؤُ وَالْمَرْجَانِ, from both of them emerged pearl and coral.
And from the fresh water and the salty water.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, so which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? وَلَهُ الْجَوَارِ الْمُنشَآتُ فِي الْبَحْرِ كَالْأَعْلَامِ, and to him belong the ships with sails elevated in the sea like mountains. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, so which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ, everyone upon it will perish.
Everything on this earth will perish.
وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ, and there will remain the face of your Lord, owner of majesty and honor.
Now, and this, the face of your Lord here, is صفة ثابتة لله عز وجل. And it's the authentic attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ. That face is ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. It is possessing majesty and honor.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن. So whoever is within the heavens and earth asks him every day. He is in a matter.
Every single day, he is engaged in bringing something about. In every day, he, for example, creating, sustaining, providing, causing life, giving death. In every single moment. And that's why we said that the statement of the Christians who said that God rested from creation on the seventh day, even if they didn't say that he rested, meaning slept, but they said he rested from creation and he paused creation, is a lie against Allah Azza wa Jal. And the evidence is this ayah, كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. In every single day he is engaged in bringing something about, causing people to live, causing people to die, decreeing their provision, and he's saving a people, destroying a people. Every single day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is engaged in creation and command.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان. We will attend to you, O prominent beings.
I'm not sure prominent beings is the right word here, but الثقلان are the jinn and the humans. And maybe two classes is good. الثقلان, the two groups, you two multitudes of jinn and men.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان. O company of jinn and mankind, if you are able to pass beyond the regions of the heavens and the earth, then pass. You will not pass except by authority from Allah.
And we spoke about this ayah also. And what is meant by the aqtar, the regions of the heavens and the earth.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران. There will be sent upon you a flame of fire and smoke, and you will not defend yourselves.
And it said smoke or molten copper. Also, the two use the same word. فلا تنتصران. So you will not be able to defend yourselves. And if you were to try to transgress beyond what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for you to go within the heavens and the earth.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان. And when the heavens is split open and become rose colored like oil.
Or like the red hide, which is tanned. Like the red leather, which is tanned.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان. Then on that day, none will be asked about his sin among men or jinn.
And here, what does it mean they will not be asked? Some of them said, the meaning of them not being asked is that their records are already preserved, so they are only asked as a punishment. They are not asked as what did you do that day? And is it true you went here? Is it true? They're asked only as a punishment. Or it said that after they enter the hellfire, they will not be asked.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. The criminals will be so which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام. The criminals will be known by their marks and they will be seized by the forelocks and the feet. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون. This is hell which the criminals deny. يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن. They will circulate between it and scalding water heated to the utmost degree. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. But for he who has feared the position of his Lord are two gardens.
And who fears Allah's names and attributes and actions, or fears standing in front of Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. There's two meanings to it. The maqam, and he fears the status of Allah. He fears Allah's names and attributes and actions, or he fears standing in front of Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? ذواتا أفنان. Having spreading branches.
Now both of them, both of them will have spreading branches.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? فيهما عينان تجريان. In both of them are two springs flowing. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان. In both of them are every fruit, two kinds. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان. They are reclining on beds whose linings of silk brocade, and the fruit of the two gardens is hanging low.
And it's near at hand, they don't need to work to get the fruit. Generally, the fruit needs to be harvested. Fruit needs to be harvested. People have to climb the tree to get the fruit at the top. Like in Jannah, the fruit is near to the person. He doesn't have to make any effort to get the fruit.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان. In them are women limiting their glances untouched before them by man or jinn. Or jinni.
يطمثهن, they have not had intercourse with them before. That's what tamth means.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان, as if they were rubies and coral.
يعني the hur.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny?
نعم.
هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان? Is the reward for good anything but good?
نعم. This ayah is the proof that al-jaza min jins al-amal. Yani what you did, you get back the likes of what you did. In reality, you get back more than what you did, but you get back from the category of what you did. So when you were a person of ihsan who was striving to do voluntary deeds and to excel in the deeds that you did, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded you with better than the deeds that you did. Yani you did ihsan and Allah gave you ihsan subhanahu wa ta'ala.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? ومن دونهما جنتان, and below them both in excellence are two other gardens.
Now that's the view of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, that وَمِن دُونِهِمَا here means they are less in virtue. And there are two more gardens that are less in virtue than the other gardens that were mentioned before.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? مدهامتان, dark green in color. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? فيهما عينان نضاختان, in both of them are two springs spouting. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? فيهما فاكهة والنخل
عفوا فيهما فاكهة
ونخل
ونخل
فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان, in both of them are fruit and palm trees and pomegranates.
But those fruit and palm trees and pomegranates are not like those in this world, because there is nothing in Jannah from what is in this world except names only. So the pomegranate of Jannah is not like the pomegranate of this world.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? فيهن خيرات حسان, in them are good and beautiful women.
They are the hur.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? حور مقصورات في الخيام, fair ones reserved in pavilions.
Now here maqsurat, and they only look at their husband. They don't have a desire to look at anyone else.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? Both deny. لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان, untouched before them by man or jinn. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان, reclining on green cushions and beautiful fine carpets.
The believers in Jannah.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان? So which of the favors of your Lord would you both deny? تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام. Blessed is the name of your Lord, owner of majesty and honor.
Now, we said that tabaraka, we spoke about it, and it means the one who all good is found in him, and all good comes from him. Because al-baraka is kathratul khair, and tabaraka is the one that goodness is his attribute, and blessing is his attribute. Yani all of his names here, ismu rabbik, yani all of the names of Allah Azza wa Jal, among which is Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. And the scholars differed about these names which are murakkaba, their sentences. Yani is that sentence Allah's name? Many of them, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, others affirmed these asma like Khairul Ghafirin, Arhamur Rahimin, and some of them even Maliki Yawmiddin, and the whole sentence they affirmed it as a name of Allah Azza wa Jal. And many of them also affirmed the name of Allah Azza wa Jal as a name, Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, and that this is the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, the owner of majesty and honor. I think it makes sense for us to stop here. So if I'm not mistaken, we kind of got through almost, not quite 3/4, but we did more than half. We went more than half. So I think that this is reasonable. We took quite a long break and we had a late start of, for example, we keep on going. It's a good place to stop now for Asr. And I think inshallah ta'ala, we'll try for next Saturday to resume again inshallah ta'ala with a similar timing. We'll see how far we get. We also have an option for next Sunday as well, because this Sunday we have AMAU has classes, the children's classes take place, so we can't do the tafsir tomorrow. But we'll do it again next Saturday, inshallah ta'ala, and then probably next Sunday as well. So we can try to make some progress, inshallah ta'ala. That's what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for me to mention. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.